Hi everyone, Liane here. I hope you're doing well. We all are ready into May of this year, and I'm doing this month's Currently Inked. I'm really excited to showcase these 6 inks and pens, and I am starting off strong with my only shimmer ink in this month's Currently Inked. It is Wearingle Othello. It's one of my favorite shimmer inks. It's a beautiful shading, kind of browny gray ink with subtle, elegant silver shimmer. And I think I found the perfect pen to ink or to pair shimmer inks with, and you'll see it shortly. Historically, I'd been pairing my shimmer inks with my TWSBI in a stub nib, but for some reason it would get clogged all the time, and so I'd have to just start all over, clean it, empty it, and try again, and just to not have any luck at all. And now here I am featuring the Esterbrook Esty in Botanical Garden, and it is in the Journaler nib. And I don't know why I never really tried shimmer inks in this pen with this nib, but I have to say, I think I have found my perfect pairing when it comes to shimmer inks. I haven't experienced any sort of clogging. I haven't had any issues, and the writing experience is so much more pleasant to me than the TWSBI stub. The Journaler nib is kind of like a stub nib, but I would say it's not so stubby. It's not so wide, but it still provides that lovely wet line so that the shimmer ink really gets, I guess, distributed or gets onto the page. And I just think it really accents and showcases Wearingle Othello. This next ink is Pilot Iroshizuku Yamaguri. This is an ink that I got from Amazon a while back, and at first I wasn't sure if I wanted to use it because I thought it was too similar to Pilot Iroshizuku Tsukushi. But this is a really nice, elegant, almost like a brown-black ink. It has a little bit of like a purplish tinge to it, maybe not as red as Tsukushi is, but just beautiful nonetheless. And I think it's probably going to be my go-to pen or go-to ink when I want an ink dark like black, but not necessarily a black ink. I have this ink paired with Kaweco Dia 2, and it's in an extra fine nib. I also forgot to mention that the Esterbrook Esty is in a steel nib, and so is the Kaweco Dia. In fact, I think all of my pens this month are all steel nibs. This is in an extra fine nib, like I mentioned, and this is a pen that I got from a viewer, Doug. So thank you so much, Doug. It's actually become one of my favorite finer nibs. I love to use this pen in my Midori, in my small passport size planner, because I need to write small, and I really like the feedback that the Kaweco Dia 2 offers. Ink number 3 is TAA Benitsuuchi. And this has been a lovely, lovely ink. It's a sample that I got recently, and I love that it's just that warm, rich, sort of brick red brown color. And this time I decided to ink it up in my Lamy All-Star, and this is in black. It is the very first fountain pen that I got that started my fountain pen journey, and it's kind of crazy that I almost decided to sell this. I had no sort of emotional attachment, so I thought, and I thought that I was over the sort of tri-grip style of this Lamy, but I am so glad that I kept it because all I needed to do was change the nib from the cursive nib that I used to have and bought an extra fine nib, and now it's just one of my favorites. And the ink and the pen combination is really lovely. It's saturated, but it also shades just enough to make it stand out. Next is also a newly acquired ink. This is Pelican's Brilliant Brown. I think Kristen from Life Inspired Design also mentioned how much she loves this ink. I also saw Lori from Time with Tata, who also talked about this ink, and watching them enjoy the inks, enjoy this ink was what got me to get it, and I am so happy with it. It's a warm, rich, orangey brown that shades so beautifully, and I mentioned this in my last video, just talking about like my fountain pen favorite of the month, and it is this right now. It's the Platinum Preppy Perpanep and it's in the O2 extra fine nib. And I don't know why, but this is my go-to pen right now, especially when it comes to just being able to throw this pen into my bag. I'm not worried that it's going to scuff up. It's very affordable. It's my cheapest pen in this month's lineup. I think I bought it for like $4 on Amazon, but it works beautifully in my passport size planner, and it dries quickly. I don't need that sort of paper blotter. Now this is an ink that I've had for a while, and just because I've had so many other inks, I haven't yet swatched it. So this is the first time that I'm swatching it, and I'm so happy with it. This is Teranishi Nostalgic Honey, and this is a beautiful, rich, golden honey, golden brown, maybe I would say like a brown gold color. It reminds me of Waringul Kyunghee, which happens to be one of my all-time favorite inks. And so far, writing with this pen, this is a Twis Eco White and Rose Gold. I have it in an extra fine nib, also a steel nib, but this pen and ink pairing has been so lovely. The extra fine is, it offers a nice fine line, but also it's wet enough so that it really showcases the shading properties of this ink. This is one of my favorites this month. So honestly, I can't tell you which one is my favorite, but I'm really, really enjoying this pen and ink combination because it's interesting. It's nostalgic honey, but it's nostalgic in that it also reminds me of Waringul's Kyunghee. So I think I'm gonna have to do a side-by-side comparison of these two inks. I love this ink a lot, and I actually have it inked in another pen. I can't remember what it is right now, but I'll let you know when I remember. This last one is Diamine Oxblood. This is like a tried and true fountain pen community favorite, and I just wanted to revisit it. It was one of the first inks that I got when I started my fountain pen journey, and here I am swatching it and revisiting it now that I'm 2 years into the hobby. I love how rich and velvety this ink is. I have it inked with a TWSBI Diamond Mini, White and Rose Gold, one of my favorite pens. And did I miss it? I think it's in a fine nib. Yes, I did have to rewind, and it is a fine nib, but I was confused because it writes beautifully, and sometimes I forget that it's a fine because it also feels like an extra fine to me. It's a lovely wet writer, and I just think this is a reliable pen and ink combination. You have a reliable ink with one of my most reliable pens, and it's a very reliable, very pleasant writing experience. And look at how saturated that line is. I think this is probably the most saturated ink out of this month's currently inked. All right, so doing a close-up here, and Waringul Othello is this gorgeous warm brown, or not a warm brown, I'm used to saying warm brown, but it's a beautiful warm gray. I think it looks warm to me. It's almost like a brownish gray, and it's got just the most subtle but elegant sort of silver glimmer and shimmer in there, which is beautiful. You see it a lot in the cloud swatch, but also in the writing sample as well. Absolutely love it. Pilot Roshi Zuku Yamaguri is beautiful. It's almost like a purplish brown, and it has like a satiny sheen in the cloud swatch and a little bit in the writing sample too. TAA Benitsuuchi is a gorgeous color that reminds me of ancient copper. It has a little bit of like a darker sheen in the tipping, but nothing like the sort of slight green satin sheen in Yamaguri. But even in an extra fine nib, you can see the subtle shading that I really, really enjoy. This is Pelican's Brilliant Brown. Love this ink so much, and you see the contrast between the more saturated cloud swatch and how light it can get in an extra fine nib. And I really love this in my Midori Traveler's Notebook because it really shows off the shading with the Midori paper.
Next we have Teranishi Nostalgic Honey. Beautiful, beautiful ink. It actually reminds me of Wearing Old Kyunghee, and I'll probably do like an ink comparison between the two because that's what this cloud swatch reminds me of. Last but not least, this is just one of the most popular inks that I've seen online. It's Diamine Oxblood. It's a rich burgundy crimson ink, saturated, beautiful. There isn't any sort of sheen, no shimmer. None of these inks have any shimmer except for Wearing Old Othello. I think this is one of my favorite shimmer inks. It's subtle and very, very beautiful inks. Okay. It was a very quick and simple video this time around. I hope you enjoyed this month's Currently Inked. Let me know what are your favorites in the comments below. As for me, let me look at my, I can't tell you what my favorites are. These are altogether some of my favorite inks in some of my favorite pens. So I love this so much. All right, thanks so much for watching. See you in my next video. Take care. Bye.